Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy Trix. Today I'm just gonna be doing a quick little video on the basically on my IEM breakdown for this month. Because a lot of new IEMs have been released and I was like, you know what, I should probably do a video just talking about the IEMs that I want to recommend. So let me just pull it up on my blog. Hang on. There we go. Hopefully that's fine to see. Yep, cool. So if I switch over, there we are. I've also added some new stuff like this social media roulette, and I've added some like custom banner stuff, but it's still same layout, same overlays, just added some more overlays to some stuff. But yeah, just going through the list. Now I've added more price brackets because I was like, oh, you know what, I should probably have some more to recommend people. So the first recommendation I'm going to make is between 20 and 50 pounds. I would recommend getting the 7Hz sound at 0. There are 2 IEMs in this price bracket that are like decent, which I would recommend. There is the 7Hz sound at 0, which has recently come out. So pull up the 0 and the Chew, right? So the Moondrop Chew has very Moondrop style tuning. So if I pull up the Blessing 2, you'll see, let me just turn off the view for the Sun on 0. Moondrop has this like this house sound tuning where all Moondrop IEMs try to hit harmon neutral, which is just like a bass boosted tuning. It's not completely flat like the Etymotic ER2 SE, because the Etymotic is completely flat. Like it has neutral, it has negative bass, if that makes sense. So like on this graph here, it shows as I was saying before, the squiggly line is like what neutral is to the person who made this like graphing database. So I believe this graph was made by Superstar. Yeah, I think this is Superstar Reviews' Superstar Reviews' database. So to him, the Chew and the Blessing 2 would sound like neutral, but because they're tuned to harmon neutral is a little bit bass boosted, even though it's still technically neutral to your ears. So proper neutral is completely flat. That's why it's still got a bass boost above the ER2 SE, but it still has like a neutral type of sound when you're listening to it. So anyway, let me remove the ER2 and the Blessing 2, and let me pull up the Chew. The default recommendation that people would have made back in the day would be the Chew, because the Chew was released this year and it has a decent styling of tuning. The only problem with the Chew is it doesn't have detachable cables, and the cable is kind of funky and stuff like that. So I would recommend getting the 7Hz sound at 0. For one, it has detachable cables, so you can change the cable out if you want, because most IEM cables are garbage under about 100 to 200 quid. So with the sound at 0, you can change out the cable, buy like a 10-15 pound cable that you like and just slap it on there. And the tuning is virtually the same. It has a little bit more of a bass boost, and the treble frequency is a little bit weird, but honestly, when you're listening to it, you're probably going to like it. Yeah, because most people like a V-shaped sound anyway. So that's why I recommend the sound at 0. I haven't recommended the Chew in this price bracket because, honestly speaking, from what I've heard, the technicalities of the Chew, of the 7Hz sound at 0, is a lot better than the Chew, and it's not even close in comparison to like actual technicalities. Like tuning wise, they're very similar. It's just technicalities wise, the 7Hz sound at 0 blows the Chew out of the water. So if you want to spend between 20 and 50 bucks, get the 7Hz sound at 0. It's a lot to say. Anyway, moving on to 50 to 70 quid. Honestly, there are a lot of IEMs in this price bracket because like lots of companies aim for under 100, right? Lots of companies target the under 100 price bracket because it's cheap, it gets people into the IEM hobby. I would recommend either the Truces X Clinical 0 or the Olina, I think it's the Olina, HBB Olina. because I think it goes for around $50 as well. This is on Hi-Fi Guides. I mean on Head-Fi. Where is it? I'm trying to find the I should have just searched Linsol, innit? Linsol. Olina. How much is the Olina? Oh, am I thinking of the Melee? I'm thinking of Melee. Yeah, Melee is this $5.99 is not $5.99. That's just for the cable. I mean the filters. The actual Alina is $50. Yeah, so it's pretty much the same price as the Truth Is as Clinical Zero. It's just I prefer the tuning on the Zero than to the Melee. So if I bring up Melee, so this is triple in Melee, and then if I bring up the Zero, Truth Is okay. So Melee has more bass and less treble. If you know me, you know I like treble a lot. That's why most of the IEMs I have like really weird treble, but I prefer that tuning. I do like a bass boost, but the treble region I like to have a little bit elevated, because in like K-pop style music and stuff like that, where there's lots of female vocal presence, lots of treble on the driver you're actually listening to makes the song sound better. Whereas if you're listening to male vocals most of the time, having some type of bass boost would be better, because male vocals, like when you're listening to the male vocals the majority of the time, it will have a resonance frequency in like the bass region. Anyway, I recommend the Truth Is Zero or the Melee. If you want more bass, go with the Melee. If you want if you listen to like more female vocals in your songs, I'd say go with the Truth Is Clinical Zero. The other reason why I like the Truth Is Clinical Zero is because if I bring up the variations, tuning on this and the variations are very similar. The only downside is this bass frequency and the mid frequencies, and that's to be expected honestly, because the Truth Is Zero only has, I think, one driver. Hang on. I think it has one or two drivers. Truth Is Zero. While the Moondrop Variations has 5. Truth Is dual down. Yeah, so it has 2 drivers. One to handle the bass, one to handle the treble. Whereas the Variations have 5. And honestly, to get this type of tuning on an IEM with only 2 drivers is insane. Like if I bring up what IEM has only 1 driver and that's like similarly priced. Well, the Melee has only 1 driver. Melee has 1 driver, not able to reproduce the sub bass frequency as like faithfully to the variations as it is, and again with the treble frequencies, the Zero is a lot closer to the frequency of the variations for treble than the Melee is. But honestly, I'm more of a Moondrop shill than anything. I just think if you want to have like a Moondrop type of sound for $50 and you don't want to spend any more than $50 and you don't want to get the chew, get the Truth Is Zero. If you want something a bit more bass boosted, get the Melee. Okay, I haven't listed those here because honestly I think the technicalities on this and on the Truth Is Zero are a lot better. Okay, 70 to 100 backs. This is pretty much the same as last time. Do new Titaness. Do not get the arias like I did. They're complete. They're not garbage. Tuning is good. Just the QC issues make me very hesitant to recommend it to anyone. That's why I put like an alternative. You can get the aria if you want more bass, or the SC version of the aria if you want the same tuning as Do New Titaness. But because of QC issues, filter issues, and other issues like paint chipping and stuff like that, I just don't recommend any of the arias at all anymore. The Do New Titaness isn't without flaws. Sometimes the grills fall off and stuff like that, but honestly the Do New Titaness in terms of build quality I do believe are a lot better, because like in honesty most IEMs you're going to have some type of issues or QC issues or whatever. That's just how it is with IEMs, because underneath like £100 you're getting something very cheap with lots of drivers and they can't really like account for QC issues under that price range. They can't have someone go through each IEM individually under that price range to make sure everything is perfect. But Moondrop don't just have issues with like when you're shipping out. It's like longevity. You don't want your IEMs to just be faulty after a couple of months, years, or whatever. The Blessing 2s are completely fine. I've had them for a while. They're pretty much the same as they were the day I bought them. Like, honestly, I had the Arias a bit longer than a bit longer than the Dusks, but the Blessing 2 Dusks, like, I've noticed no sound quality issues, no driver imbalance on either side of the IEM. They both sound exactly the same. Either they're degrading at the same time, or they haven't degraded at all. Whereas with the Arias, one side is completely gone. That's why I bought the less Shure S12s, and I'm thinking of upgrading again in the future. If you'd like to support me, please fuel my IEM addiction by supporting me through my channels with the links in the description. Really appreciate it. Anyway, that's genuinely why I recommend Dune Titan, because I've only heard of the grill falling off, and other than that I haven't heard anything like paint chipping issues or other like driver imbalance issues with the Dune Titan specifically. If there are, please leave a comment down below so I can address it and update this. But honestly, I think the Dune Titan is probably the best IEM you can get for 70 quid. I did say 70 to 100, and that's only because there are two IEMs that are a bit better. Not a bit, they're better than the Dune Titan S, but it's just the fit on them that I don't like. There's the ER2 SE and the ER2 XR. They basically look the same. So hang on, if I go on to Amazon, ER2 SE, god damn it, ER2 SE. Okay, so ER2 SE, and then the ER2 XR. I brought up the SE before. It's like a very flat IEM, whereas the XR is a bit more bass boosted, right? I don't know why the XR isn't on here for its default price, because they both go for around like 100. So if you see the ER2 SE on here, I don't know why. Hang on. It would be nice if it showed the UK version. Yeah, come on. There we are. So ER2 SE goes around 100 quid. I would recommend only buying the ER2 one if you can get it for around 80 quid, because the ER2 IEMs, automatic IEMs, they go on sale a lot. If you don't get it with any like fancy bells or whistles like Bluetooth or whatever, they go around like 100 quid for MSRP, but they go on discount for about 80. Only pick up the ER2s if you can get them for around 80. And my second thing about the ER2s is this triple flange system. So you'll see that it has this triple flange here. That just means that on the actual ear tip, it has 3 silicone ear tips, ear tips instead of 1. That's to help with the seal of the IEM, because with most IEMs, like if I bring up if I just search IEM and then bring up like an image, you'll understand. So IEM images in ear monitors. There we are. Okay, the ultimate is IEMs, right? You see how it covers up the contour of your ear, so like this part of your ear. That's to improve noise that's to like reduce the amount of that's basically to improve noise cancelling, because without it you won't be able to reproduce treble frequencies and bass frequencies correctly. So you need to cover this part of your ear to block out any outside sound when you're listening to music, right? But the ER2s go in a different direction. Instead of blocking this area from letting any like outside noise seep into the ear canal while you're listening to music, if you have a triple flange system, it acts as a barrier, multiple barriers, while you're listening to music. So instead of having to like cover the whole contour of your ear, it only has to cover the inside of the actual nozzle as you're listening to the music. So you don't have something like sitting in the bed of or the contour of your ear to block out sound. It blocks out sound from these 3 flanges. So it just improves it reduces outside noise while you're listening to music. But the problem with the system is, to ensure that you have the right seal, you need to push them into your ears quite deeply. So the fit on these are kind of, it's similar to like normal earbuds, but you have to push them in deeper, right? So the way that you wear them is you push it in, and then after like you will feel like 3 levels of pressure as you're pushing it into your ear. Once you're all the way in, you won't be able to push it any farther. But because you're all the way in, say for example, you pull them out quickly. I've heard that some people have like felt very bad ear discomfort because they're wearing the ER2s. Again, you'll have some ear discomfort when you're wearing normal IEMs. It's just the fit on these are quite weird. But honestly, they're pretty good. In terms of technicalities and tuning, they're pretty good for the money. But I don't generally recommend them just because the fit isn't for everyone. Whereas with like normal IEMs that have this type of fit and this type of like build and this type of like housing, it's a lot more universal for everybody. Whereas the ER2s, yes, it can fit into your ear canals, but it's very uncomfortable for long periods of time. Whereas with these, it only sits in the concha of your ear. So after a little while, they may start hurting in the concha of your ear around here. But when you get used to it, you won't feel that pain anymore. Whereas with the ER2s, because they're so deep into your ear, movement, or basically any type of like sharp movement with your head, not left to right, but any type of movement or any type of yanking on the actual cable of the IEM will make you feel discomfort quite badly. I believe the cables are detachable, but other than that, I just don't generally recommend them. If you like, yeah, they're detachable. If you want to get this IEM, I recommend it. The tuning is really nice. It's just the fit is a bit awkward. That's all. Moving up, we got 100 to 140. The best IEM you can get for about £100 is, sorry, the 7Hz X Clinical Dioko. Sorry, I'm going to drink some water. It was recently released. Clinical's been on a madness, like releasing IEMs and stuff. Dioko, there was an issue with the filters in this IEM and the nozzles being weird, but now it's completely fine. Again, you might be worried about this treble peak, but that is on most planar IEMs. I talked about this before, but if I bring up the S12, the Z12, oh, he doesn't have it on here. The hooks, the in Hi-Fi P1 Max, I believe. There is the P3 and the T2 Plus. There is the Timeless. I think that's it for the planar IEMs that I currently know of. And all I wanted to highlight with all of these IEMs on this graph is that the treble peak is very prominent in most planar IEMs. It's just the resolution you get with planar IEMs is unmatched for the price bracket that they're in. That's why I recommend them. That's why I would say if you can, get the 7Hz Dioko. If you want a different IEM, I would recommend the S12s, which is the IEM that I have as well. Just that the S12, how do I explain this? The S12 has the tuning on the Dioko and the S12 are kind of the same in the 10 kilohertz plus region. So in this region onwards, it's kind of hard to hear a difference just because depending on your hearing, you won't be able to hear that far. But on this region down here, where you have sub bass, it was a lot thumpier on the S12 than it does on the Dioko. It's just that the Dioko has a higher rise in bass than the S12. Just depends on what you're looking for. I prefer the S12. I know some people might prefer the Dioko, but honestly, if you can pick up the S12s for around 118 like I did, it beats the Dioko completely. Again, 140 to 200, get the S12s or the Z12s. Now, I'm bringing this up now I could have brought it up in the ARIAs, but I didn't. I don't recommend the ARIAs at all. Okay, so there are two models of the S12. There's the S12 and the Z12. The only difference is, and there's no graph on Super Reviews' database, but the S12 is like the normal tuning. The Z12 just adds bass to it. So kind of like the Blessing 2s and the Blessing 2 Dusk. All the Dusk and the Blessing 2 both have the same tuning. It's just the Dusk has more bass, right? Same thing with the S12 and the Z12. The only reason I'm bringing up these IEMs as alternatives, I mean, the Z12 as an alternative, is specifically what I describe here. If you have an iPhone or a MacBook or Mac or whatever, anything that has to do with Apple or an Apple device, you have to be careful with the IEM that you buy. Not in terms of like, oh, you need to buy this IEM or that IEM. No. Depending on the tuning you want. So with Android, there is a way for you to tune your IEM to your taste. There's a parametric EQ or like an equalizer that you can use on Android devices that you can change the tuning of your IEM system wide, right? On iPhone and iOS devices, Apple devices, and all of that, parametric system-wide EQ does not exist. It exists on Windows, it exists on Android and stuff like that because you actually get an app to do it for you. On Linux, you don't need one. You can just use Pipewire and it comes with one, and you can like change the frequencies yourself. iOS and Apple devices specifically, you will have to be very sure about the type of tuning you want. If you want more bass, go with the Z12. If you don't need that much bass, go with the S12 if you're on iOS or Apple devices or whatever. If you're on Android or whatever and you just want dusk and you don't want to and you want bass and you don't want to faff with EQ, get the Z12. But if you want to save some money and you're okay with EQing, you can just get the S12. I just use the S12 default because I don't really mind it. I think there's enough bass on it that you don't need to add more bass. But yeah, if you do have a DAC amp, an external DAC amp, I do believe most external DAC amps do provide some type of parametric EQ. I remember someone telling me that the Quadelix 5K has a parametric EQ that you can tune your IEM with if you have an iPhone. So that's a possibility. But if you're just buying the IEM on its own and you're using it with like a dongle or straight out of a source or like your phone or something, just buy the one that has the tuning that you like. Okay, 200 to 240, 7Hz timeless. I don't think I really need to explain that. I've said it in my other previous video as well. 7Hz timeless is like unbeatable for 200 to 240. Then you have the Rapco Hook X, which is another planar IEM, just has just a different style of tuning, honestly. So if I bring up the timeless and the hook, timeless hook has less treble, same bass, sub bass, mid forwardness and everything, just has less treble. So yeah, if you want, go with either one. They're pretty much tuned the same. Can't really complain, honestly. Tantrum Oxygen for 260 to 300. This is a new IEM that I decided to bring up. It's not like new, it's just honestly forgot it existed. Tantrum Oxygen, it's just got a bass boost, honestly. Bass boosted and has less treble than something like the Timeless. So if you want more treble forwardness, go with Timeless or Rapgo Hook X. If you want more bass, go with the Oxygen. I'm probably going to go with the Rapgo Hook X as my next upgrade, well, side grade, because I already got the S12. I'm going to side grade to the Hook X, just because the tuning is like pleasant and it's a planar. So, and the Hook X is like very interesting. It has an open back IEM. It's an open back IEM, so you can actually hear music from outside of the IEM's housing. So I think it'll be interesting just to get them. Then again, 300 to 500, Blessing 2 Dusks or the Blessing 2. Again, just depending on if you're able to EQ your IEMs. If you're not able to EQ, then just go with the one that you want the best tuning from. If you can EQ, I'd say go with the Blessing 2 and EQ them to the dusk if you want to, or just stick with the Blessing 2's default tuning. If you just don't want to faff with that and you just want bass, get the dusk. 500 to 1000, get the Moondrop Variations. Need I say more? They're probably the best IEM you can get above the the Blessing 2. The other IEM that you could get is probably like the Moondrop S8, but the difference between the variations on the S8 is very minuscule. Like the only difference that I can think of is tuning actually. Hang on. S8 and the variations. Yeah, the only difference between the S8 and the variations is tuning. And honestly, I think more people would prefer the tuning on the variations than they would the S8 because it just has a bit more bass. And then the last one, same as before, is the Theaudio Monarch Mark II. Best IEM you can get, period, as endgame. There are, okay, when I say best, I mean for the money, but as I've talked about in my blog post as well, depending on the style of tuning you like, your price bracket and stuff like that, that can very generally affect the type of IEM that you would want to buy. For the money, the Theaudio Monarch Mark II is probably the best IEM you can get. But if you want more technicalities, you might want the Noli VX. If you want more bass, the Elysian Diva might be better. What else can I think of? Can't think of anything else. But the Monarch Mark II is like a good in-between between technicalities and tuning. For like the 500 to £1,000 range, the only other thing I can think of is the Clairvoyance, the Oracle, the S8, stuff like that. And again, the IEMs that I recommend are probably the best in the price bracket for the money. If there is one above it or an alternative that I recommend, I'm only recommending it because if you can get the IEM for the same price as the like cheapest one in that price bracket, go for it. What else? This isn't like, oh, you need to buy these IEMs, just buy the one that you're most comfortable with buying. If you don't want to spend like £1,000 on an IEM, I'm not telling you to go out and just like, oh, it's not worth getting any IEM below this. No, they're all differently tuned, they're all different, have different technicalities and stuff. These are pretty much, I'm only recommending these because I think they're the best in their price bracket. I'm not just recommending one and saying, oh yeah, here's 50 in this price bracket, just choose the one you like. No, I'm only recommending one or two in each price bracket and saying, if you like it, go for it. If you don't, or you're unsure, leave a comment or like reach out to me and I'll try to recommend you one. Because like the 7000 isn't like a base king, right? Same with the Chronicle Zero, Duno Titan S. None of these are like the best for their tuning. They're just the best in terms of technicalities in their price bracket. If you want one that has like, if you can sacrifice technicalities for like best tuning that you can get, then yeah, of course I'm going to be like open to like recommending one based on tuning or something. But in terms of technicalities for the price bracket, these are probably the best IEMs I could recommend. And just say, if you want to buy like the best IEM for $50, well, either get this or get this, and you can blind purchase them and know that you're probably going to like the tuning and you're probably going to like it. But yeah, other than that, don't know what else to say. If you want me to cover any type of other content or something, leave a comment down below and I'll make some content around it. If you like the video, please leave a like on the video. If you dislike the video, please leave a dislike on the video and comment down below ways that I can improve content on the channel, because I don't want to make content that you're not going to like watching. If you have any advice for things that I can improve, things that I can change, things to just make your viewing experience better, please leave a comment down below. Other than that, thanks for watching. Check out the links in the description. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.